Thank God and God bless. Like, it's such a blessing that, like, how established the Coptic Orthodox Church is.
Hey guys, welcome back to Keeping It Apostolic, the most edifying podcast in the world. I'm joined here today with Christy. Thank you, Christy, for coming onto the podcast. Of course.
Thank you for driving all the way here.
No worries at all. So before we get started, we'd like to get to know who you are a little bit more. So tell me more about yourself, who you are, what you're about.
Sure.
Everything.
My name is Christy George. I'm 21 years old. I live in Orlando, Florida. I attend St. Rebekah Coptic Orthodox Church in Orlando. I'm a psych major at UCF, which I really, really enjoy. And I'm a senior, so I graduate in the next year. Nice.
So today we're talking about OCCM, which is obviously a big aspect of the college life as an Orthodox youth. So my first question for you is talk a little bit about yourself and about how you got involved with OCCM, how that started. So just go with that.
Yeah. So I knew about OCCM, one of my best friends, actually, family friend, was part of the first group that kind of got together with Sayana to make OCCM. So I kind of knew a little bit about it before I entered into college. Growing up in high school, I didn't really have the best, cohesive community or group at church. So I was really excited and willing to go into college and get a new experience. So I was not really super happy with my decision to stay at home for college, but I went into it with an open mind, and then I started attending the OCCM meetings. And then in my freshman year, I think it was spring semester or something, I went and I brought a friend. It was COVID at that time, so meetings weren't really regular or anything like that, but I brought a friend. We attended OCCM, we attended the meeting, blah blah blah, and I met this girl. She just I don't know why, I just felt drawn to her. And she ended up being my best friend, but she was the one who I kind of attached myself to her, and she was the one that kind of encouraged me to attend OCCM. So we attended OCCM together that whole semester. And then afterwards, we weren't super close or anything, but during the summer, we started to hang out a little bit, and she was nominated to be an officer for the board. And we were talking, and I remember telling her, I wish that I, ran for office. I really like OCCM, and I wish I, went into it further. And she told me, that's so funny, you said that. There are actually 2 people who dropped out, and we're looking for people to, be an officer. So she's like, I'll talk to someone for you, and, yeah, we'll get it done. 2 weeks later, I was on the board. I was signed up to go to lead, and that's kind of how this whole started. And yeah.
What do you think was the most transforming moment that you had at OCCM that first year that kind of, started that shift where you were like, this is something I want to do?
I think it was because you see so many people, and I met so many people that I had no idea existed. Obviously, Orlando is huge, and there's so many churches here. I think 5 or 6 or something like that. But I had never really been close to any of the youth from the other churches. So I attended OCCM. College was the one thing that brought us all together. And again, I didn't have such a great community at my home church. So this was my chance to branch out and find your group or find your tribe, even though they may be different from the people that you grew up with.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about how OCCM has that community, especially in college, because you're all kind of in the same boat together.
Yeah.
So how important do you think it is to have that group of people around you who push you spiritually when you're going through college?
So important, especially since when you enter college, I feel there's such a big push to get involved. That's the main advice, the one big thing that everyone is telling you when you get into college: get involved, join clubs, get a job, sharifi, find your group. And it's really hard to do, as number one, not living on campus most of the Coptic youth in Orlando, but also just how do you fit in? How do you have a group when everyone around you is doing everything that you're taught not to? So it was nice to have that community and have something on campus. This is a college, club or event, but it's with like-minded people. So I'm able to act as a college student, but we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, I think you really hit a key point there, which is it's about having that like mind, having that same end goal in mind.
Yeah.
That I think is extremely important. Not just with OCCM or clubs, but just in choosing your friends and choosing who you're going to hang out with and who you're going to surround yourself with. I think that's always having the end goal in mind.
Absolutely. And you can tell, in my sophomore year, like we were all pushing each other towards the right thing. Abuna Aaron, who's our clergy advisor, started doing the youth liturgies at the local church. So it's like 10 minutes away from campus. So we would all wake up early mornings on Thursday, attend the liturgy together, and all carpool after to campus. So that was really nice. And during Lent, he like made those liturgies later in the day, so even more people joined. So we would all just attend class together, like get in the cars, like attend liturgy and come back. And so yeah, we were on fire, and like we all encouraged each other, and we brought other people with us. So it was really
there's a lot of parallels to that, and obviously like friendships in the Bible and stories in the Bible where groups of people are together. Like what comes to mind first is David and Jonathan.
Yes.
And their friendship, and how because of how close they got by serving God together, that friendship was never broken, even amidst all like the circumstances that went on.
Yeah, and it carries on when David took care of Jonathan's son. So the spirit of it carries on even to the younger generation, and people are inspired when they see like us older kids doing it.
Yeah, I definitely think that OCCM serves a lot of purposes. We'll talk a little bit about that, about how it's not just a campus thing, but it's also an off-campus thing.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the service that OCCM provides, both on campus and off campus, what is your personal favorite thing about OCCM's service? And then we'll answer that question first and we'll go on. So what's your favorite thing about OCCM's service?
My favorite thing about OCCM is all the outreach that we do. Mm-hmm. I remember when we first joined OCCM, it was called evangelism, and evangelism is a very I want to say intimidating word for a lot of people. Like, what do you mean I'm going to go evangelize? I'm 18, I'm starting college. All I have to do is attend these classes, do well, get into grad school, be on my merry way. And it's not really a word that's used common in the Coptic community. So that is something that was pretty intimidating to me. But I started tabling and doing all these outreach events with the officer team, and specifically Mark Mansour, and learning how to do that in a right way, where it's not just carrying a gospel and walking around like, have you heard about Jesus Christ, and you're going to hell if you're you don't repent, but just reaching out to people where they are. I was so surprised to see on campus how many people knew about Christ, but they were thirsty for more. And even if they weren't of the Orthodox faith, they had a little bit of background. So we would set up a table, we'd put icons, and people would just be drawn in by the icons. I recognized that, and then ask questions. And it was so nice to see that people are longing for a community, and it's not even that we did anything to draw them in. God would send them to us, and all we had to do was have a conversation, but also retain that retain the connection so that they would come back. And there are so many stories of people who are not Coptic, or not had nothing to do with OCCM, and just found us, and boom, and one of the most committed members, and participation was really high.
It's all about planting the seed, I think, with OCCM. About you talked about a little bit, and I think a very big misconception that we have as Coptic Orthodox youth is that we almost have this mentality that we need to be shielded, we kind of just need to keep it to ourselves,
Coptic club, it's just us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a very big misconception that people don't want it. Every single person has a God-sized hole in their heart that only God can fill.
Yeah.
Nothing else is going to fill it. And so they are intrinsically drawn to these tabling events, or to other campus outreach or community service events. And I think that through OCCM is the easiest way to evangelize, in my opinion, because you're in a place, you're in a setting where college is all about having open discussions. It's all about training your mind and thinking about deep things, especially if you're studying any one of the social sciences. That's all it's about. And so it's the perfect environment to have those thought-provoking conversations, and not just thought-provoking conversations, but also to serve the people in the community around it, because that leads to those conversations. So how does community service through OCCM lead to campus outreach and lead people to the faith?
Yeah, so exactly like you said, people are desperate to have a community, and desperate to fill that God-sized hole in their heart. I remember once, I feel a big part of community service is the outreach. You're serving the people that you're with. I remember one time I was tabling, and it was hot. I was just so ready to be done with this, go back in the library in the AC, and we're packing up, and I saw someone walking by, And he didn't look Coptic, like I didn't recognize him, but he came up to, like, he was just like peering over at the icon. So I kind of stopped everything and I was like, hey, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. Like, started to have this conversation. Turns out he was an international exchange student from Greece. So he was Orthodox, but he just hadn't been to church in so long. And so I just exchanged his number. We talked exchanged numbers with him. I added him to the group chat and we just talked a little bit about how it's kind of lonely. He's, like here for a semester, he doesn't have anyone. And that struck me hard. Like, we are so lucky to have a community like we do in the Coptic Church, and we take it for granted so often. So whatever, I added him to the group chat. He never showed up to any OCCM meetings, and then I was tabling again with Abuna and a lot of the other officers like a month later. And he like sees me and he walks over, he talks to Abuna, he looks at Abuna, he goes, this girl changed my life. Like, and I was like, what do you mean? I added you to a group chat. Like, it was so funny. But he remembered the icons, he remembered the story. Abuna told him to go to church, and he did. I saw him a week after and he did, and he like, it was really a thank you from the bottom of my heart. Like, he was thanking me from the bottom of his heart when I really did nothing. And so God is really just sending you the people, and all you have to do is plant the seed, like you said. And that's where I feel is the intersection between community service and outreach, that people are just, they need us,
Yeah.
They need other people.
I agree 100%. And I think that, like you said, like, God just sends the people and you have one job, and it's just to plant that seed, and just like, you don't have, like, that's it. You just plant the seed, and God will do his magic. God will do, not magic, sorry. God will do his work. God will, like, change the heart of the people around. Yeah. But that starts with us being lighthouses, and the logo of OCCM is a lighthouse. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask, like, what is the symbolism of that lighthouse, and why is that the logo for OCCM? Like, why do you think, like, what does that mean to you, kind of?
When I think about a lighthouse doesn't do anything. It stands there, it has a light, and it's shining all the time. And people, whenever they need the lighthouse, they look to it. And I think that as long as we're on all the time, and that we have that fire of the Holy Spirit in us, and people can see the Christ-like spirit in us, that is what's going to draw them in. Like, yes, we hear about evangelism, we have to go the extra mile and meet people where they are, but on campus, it's enough to just be a light and make yourself available to people, and that's what will attract them. Like, I love this quote. My Sunday school servant growing up used to tell me all the time, like, you might be the only Bible someone will read, like, be a walking Bible. And people will know you're Christian by your love. So if you're just loving and you have that light, something's different about you, that's what attracts people to you.
Yeah, it reminds you, like, a lighthouse has two jobs, to have a light and to have an open window, and that's it.
Yeah.
So there's two parts to it. First, you have to have the light. Like, you have to be spiritually fed, and you have to, work on your own spirituality, but then you also have to have a window open. Yeah. Like, you have to let people see it.
Exactly. And that light flourishes when we're with other people.
Yes.
Yeah. We like light each other on fire, literally.
Exactly. I think, like, when it comes to the best part about OCCM, in my opinion, is the fellowship, because that's what ties everything together. Yeah. That's what ties the service and the outreach and the Bible studies and the lectures and the talks or whatever. What ties it all together is the fact that you are in it with every other person in that room. And on all aspects of life, you're in it. Like, you guys are all in the same stage of life. You guys are all studying. You guys are all, working for spirituality. Everyone is in the same boat. And, like, the coolest part about OCCM is people who don't go to church will still go to OCCM. Yeah.
And you're not forced to go to OCCM. Like, maybe when you're at home with your parents, you were a kid, you were forced to go to church on Sundays. But OCCM is a completely voluntary thing, I think. And there are people who don't like it, and I respect it. Like, I've seen videos of people joking around saying like all these odd things about OCCM. But whatever, you don't like it, don't go. It's not meant for you. Yeah. Maybe you're getting that from somewhere else, and that's fine. But leave it for the people who need it.
Sorry, I know you're talking about.
That's I know.
So we'll talk a little bit about just spreading faith in college, because I feel like obviously that's like the main component of OCCM. There's a lot of misconceptions about spreading your faith and what that looks like and how that should look like, and how to really do that. So what do you think are those misconceptions, and how do we address them when it comes to spreading our faith on college campuses?
I think a big misconception is that, like, you have to be you have to look or act a certain way, especially when we think of evangelism or, that cookie cutter, perfect, like Christian girl or boy or whatever. But at the end of the day, we're all normal and we're all in college. But there's a specific way that we act that people will notice about us. And so I think if anyone is looking, navigating the path of how do I, become just a normal person, live in the world normally, but also like respect my morals and my values and stick to what has been taught to me and passed down to me by tradition, that it's not that hard. Like you know when something is wrong and when something is right. So I think it's really just by the way that you act, like you can live in the world and not be of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I remember like when I freshman year, it was not really an OCCM event, but we'd all just band together. We'd go to the football games and like we wouldn't do anything wrong. There was no drinking, nothing, but we'd just go enjoy like that normal part of college life without doing anything wrong. And we glorified God in everything that we did.
That's the key. That last part is glorifying God in everything you do. Like it doesn't like it's not about like doing Bible study or about standing up there with a mic and giving a talk. It's about in every single moment of your life, what are you doing to glorify God? Yeah. Like something as simple as like wearing a cross.
Exactly.
And then you gotta act like the person wearing the cross, but that's another story. Like things so simple as that, or like just like lending someone a hand, like just even smiling at people, like that in and of itself is a form of evangelism. It's a form of being that light, of being that lighthouse.
Yeah, exactly.
I think another misconception when it comes to evangelism is that people think they have to have an immense amount of knowledge, which like there's a time and a place for that knowledge, but it's not all the time. And I think, obviously if someone's starting to debate you about something, maybe you should, and you don't really know it, maybe you should, take a step back and just be honest. I think a lot of times being honest does a lot more than trying to come up with an answer that you don't really have. But the thing about the knowledge is that it's not necessary, but it's obviously something very important, something very valuable. But a lot of people think that, because I don't know this or I don't know that, like I'm just going to stay away from it. But what that does is it makes your own spirituality weaker. When you're not sharing that light with other people, it's hard to keep your own light lit. If that makes sense.
Compartmentalizing it and saying I'm not meant for this or whatever. And that's, I think, why people are so hesitant to like table like, it's gonna be cringy, like I don't know what I'm saying, like it's just gonna be me like talking out of whatever, and I'm not really knowing what I'm talking about. But I really like the concept that we all have the Holy Spirit inside of us, and that's what's speaking on our tongue. I think that was even in the gospel today.
I was gonna say like in the gospel today, like it was like that was a part of it, which is like don't premeditate on what you're gonna say. Like the Spirit will give you the words to say in the moment. Obviously that doesn't mean like don't do any research, don't look into anything.
Of course. Like
do your part, but the point is like don't be anxious about anything.
Just let it be smooth and lead with love first of all.
Of course. So talking a little bit more about spreading your faith on campus, obviously like latching onto the lead with love point. Sometimes you will encounter people who are a little bit abrasive in their approach to
for sure
spirituality, but sometimes people of different faith groups. How do we deal with that as OCCM? How do we kind of deal with people who are they come in with a little bit of fire when they talk about things of spiritual nature?
I think we as OCCM, the whole point of it is to not convert anyone. Like that's a part of it, like that's important. But all we're telling you to do is to come and see. Like Dan used to tell me that all the time. Just come and see. We're inviting you. If you want to take that invitation, you're more than welcome. And if not, that's okay. And there are so many people that I know who are consistent in coming to the OCCM meetings who do not necessarily share the same faith. One of my friends is Catholic, but he's so consistent in coming because he feels the love, he feels the fellowship, and he just wants one more thing to do on campus, and that's okay. Like we're not here giving spiritual talks where we're debating about the nature of Christ, divinity of Christ, whatever it is. And we're just simple. Like just come enjoy the fellowship, and if you don't like it, that's okay. And if you're here to start a conversation of like debate and harshness, like there's a time and place for that. Like I know there are people who are super into that, and God bless you, because I'm not one of those people. But it doesn't have to be. Just if you don't enjoy it, that's fine, just come and see.
Exactly. I think come and see is, I mean, you look at like Nathaniel and Philip, like that is a single, that single phrase is one of the most powerful evangelical tools ever, because there's no pressure on that person or on yourself. You're just saying, just all you have to do is show up and be open to God working in you. Exactly. And that's it. And you will see the results. It's not just like, oh, you might see it. You will see it.
Yeah.
So I agree. And then going on the point of, there's obviously a time and place for all of that. Like I like how you said OCCM is simple. It's not supposed to be for conversion. I think that's very, very important, is that we realize that we're only here again to be a light.
Yeah.
Like a lighthouse doesn't tell the ship where to go.
Yeah.
It just shows the ship where it's at.
Yeah.
And where the light is. The ship decides, do you want to go to the light, or do you want to, ruin yourself and go somewhere else?
And people will feel that. They know. Like, it's not easy to just say, like, I have an underlying motive to convert you, but I'm just like drawing you in. People feel that all the time, and we can think of certain groups like that, but I don't feel like that's the case with OCCM.
So to continue this conversation about OCCM, we'll shift it a little bit into serving within the church's community itself. Obviously OCCM is made up of Orthodox college kids, so they have their own churches and they all have their places to go. How does OCCM help equip those people to serve their own communities better?
Yeah. So like you said, like OCCM serves in the church community, and that's super important. But I think a lot of us are sheltered in our small church communities, and this is the best opportunity to serve outside of church while still being like in a church
setting. Yeah.
Exactly. With the people that you're comfortable with. And this also like brings awareness to the Oriental Orthodox Church. There are so many people who have never heard of the word Orthodox Christian or the words Orthodox Christian, especially Oriental Orthodoxy. So this is the best way. And like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, yes, the church served us, but there are so many other aspects in the world that served us as well. So many other organizations. Like we were part of clubs in high school and in college too. I'm sure we're part of something. So I think it would be nice if every single person like brought that one niche that they're in outside of OCCM, like bring it into OCCM as a club and have OCCM go to it. So now you're mixing the two. Like, you're not separating like my life in church and my life in OCCM and versus my career or college life. Like, it's good to have this interaction just so that like we're giving back to the community as well, because it's important to remember that the community served me too. It's
very easy to compartmentalize your life and say like church, school, sports. It's like very easy to like put everything into a bucket.
Yeah.
But I think OCCM helps us learn how to live one life under God.
Yeah.
Like God is the umbrella, and all these other buckets fall under God.
Like you said, like glorify God in everything that you do, not just in the OCCM and church services, but in everything, literally.
And I think OCCM helps with that just because it's an intersection of two of those buckets.
Yeah.
So when you realize that, no, this is a better way of living life, it helps you to apply that to more aspects of your life. And then I think as well, you're talking about like awareness for Oriental Orthodoxy. There's a lot of ways to do that. Obviously, campus outreach is probably the main way, but I even think within community service, like you said, people go out and they have their niches, they have their talents, they have whatever they have, they know these groups, whatever, and they come and bring that into the church. Yeah. It reminds me of the parable of the talents, like completely. Like, God has given you talents, God has given you things, so why don't you help the rest of the church body by bringing those things and those talents to light, and to OCCM is a great way to do it, or to church itself. And I think that through OCCM, like OCCM is a vehicle. Yeah. And it's a very nice vehicle. Like, it's very easy. It's a very like easygoing, laid back way to get things that are people wouldn't consider churchy and make them church-like, or to baptize those things. Yeah. And so I think when like OCCM, as individuals, we can baptize parts of our lives, like the music I listen to, or the people I talk to, things like that. Like, I can, set myself apart for Christ, but OCCM as a whole can set apart college for Christ.
And it's so special too. Like, Sayedna went all the way to make OCCM an organization that's recognized on campus. Like, this like, yes, it's led by the diocese and we have clergy advisors, and that's so special, but this is a college thing, and it's recognized as such and as a national organization, and it's entirely student-led, which I think is special.
Yeah.
We're not having, these old aunts and uncles telling us what to do. We are making the service or serving the community by ourselves, and like, we get to choose, like, we get to cater it to what each school is. Some schools are much larger, other schools, like I know in Georgia, are smaller, so you get to cater it to what like the needs are in your community.
And like you said, the student-led part I think is the most important part of it, because in a lot of church communities, the flexibility of the service is contingent on who's in charge, and a lot of times that's the degree of flexibility is very low.
Oh yeah.
And so OCCM allows us not just to serve, but also to develop leaders in our church community, which is extremely important for Orthodoxy in America.
Yes.
Just because Orthodoxy in America is still in its infancy. Even like Greek Orthodox and like Eastern Orthodox, like, didn't really start coming here until the Bolshevik Revolution, so like 1920, which is, I mean, it's young. It's like just over 100 years old Orthodoxy in America. Oriental Orthodoxy even younger, about 60 years.
Yeah.
And so, like, we are the first real generation of like people who were born here, Coptic people who were born here in a lot of our communities. And so this allows us to like leave a mark, not just on our communities, but on our churches and like the future of Orthodoxy in America. So I think that's another role OCCM holds, which is developing leaders for the future of Orthodoxy in America.
100%. And it helps you develop leadership in your professional life as well. It's nice that you're like kind of easing your way into it through OCCM. But I also think it's important to remember that, like, thank God and God bless, like, it's such a blessing that, like, how established the Coptic Orthodox Church is. Like, we have a lot of hierarchy here. I was speaking to one of my friends who's Eritrean Orthodox, and like, we are so lucky that we don't even realize it, like how strong of a community that how the Copts are here. This is kind of a random tangent, but I feel like since I'm speaking about her, I could put this in. But I remember my sophomore year, I was attending a class, and it was during Lent, so I was supposed to attend the liturgy right after. And so this girl like came up to me, and she introduced herself, and we were talking, and she said her name was Fairuz, and that really caught my ear, because she didn't look Coptic. Like, she was a person of color, but the name sounded familiar to me because it's an Arabic name. So I asked her, like, where are you from? She said she was from Eritrea, and that she was an Eritrean Orthodox Christian. And so that really caught me by surprise, because that was the first person that I had met on campus that was an Oriental Orthodox, but not Coptic. And so after the class ended, I just looked at her and I was like, I don't know what came over me, but I asked her, do you want to go to liturgy with me? She said, yes. I haven't been to liturgy in years. I was like, okay. So I literally took her in my car. We went to liturgy. On the way there, like, she told me so many things that I did not realize. Like, all the things that we took for granted, she was telling me she was struggling with. And that hit me so hard, and it really humbled me, made me grateful for all the things that I have. And as soon as we walked into the church, like some study, like, the look on her face, like, it was glowing, like, literally a look of awe. And we attended the liturgy, and the whole time she's just like not distracted, just eyes forward, very like amazed and in awe of the church. And it grounds you to see that. Like, we take it for granted that we go to church once, twice a week, 4 times a week, but there are people who really like don't have anything. Anyways, like, I took her back to campus, and she started attending OCCM, and like, there's a thirst for like other Oriental Orthodox Christians, especially ones that are not as established in the US. Like, we need to bring them in and help them as well, and OCCM is the perfect way to do it. Of
course. I like that's what OCCM is about.
Yeah,
it's about unifying, like, people, not just Orthodox people, but people of all different backgrounds and worldviews and faiths, and just giving them a commonality between them.
Yeah.
And just going on the point of Coptic Orthodoxy being so established in America, like, it is such a blessing.
Yeah.
And it's because of the way how the Coptic people are so unified through times of persecution. And this is like a little bit off topic, but we'll talk about it a little bit. It relates, but like the Coptic Church is obviously the Church of the Martyrs. It's the most persecuted church. Forget church, most persecuted group of people, basically in world history. And there's like two types of persecution. There's physical and there's ideological.
Yeah.
And we live in a world here in the Western world, thank God we're not physically persecuted, but we're definitely ideologically persecuted. And I think that's what allows us to have such a strong community of believers here in the States, is because we know like we have to hold our faith fast, like steadfast in our faith.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I think OCCM does a very good job of, is holding on to the faith, preserving the faith on a college campus.
Exactly.
You know, especially with the way the education system is talks about spirituality and religion nowadays, and how it puts Christianity a little bit lower of a status than other religions, or just or religion in general, compared to an atheistic worldview. And what OCCM does is it allows us to kind of reset our minds on campus and realize that, like, refocus our minds that, no, like, Christ is the answer.
Yeah.
Like, God is the answer.
Yeah.
Like, that is the common, like, that is the end in mind, you know?
And I think it's so, like, special that we are constantly reminded of the persecution that happened in Egypt, in the homeland. And so living in the diaspora, like, we're reminded of it, and it's also happening to us in a different way. So I think it gives us the motivation to keep fighting against it. And yeah, thank God, like, the church is so established, and we have so many servants and so many people to look up to, that we have good examples of how to do so.
Do you think there's any ways that OCCM can almost educate people on campus about the reality of how do I word this? Can explain to people the reality of Christianity and who Christ is amidst the ideological persecution of Christianity? Like how can OCCM further serve that purpose of like being the truth itself in a world full of not truth?
Lies, yeah. I think OCCM already does that. Like, that's the purpose of OCCM. I think also just having a focus on outreach outside of the Coptic community is so important, and also serving the communities that are not part of the Coptic community, because OCCM already does that. It's now an issue of, like, come and see, how do we get people to know that we exist, to know that we are the church of the truth. But yeah, I think it's just...
So my follow-up question is, how can we do that better?
It starts with the person. Like, it's not OCCM's job as an organization. I think every single one of us needs to have in mind that you're not going to get people to come by a flyer. Like, it's helpful, but people are going to come and stay, like, retained. Like, that's such an odd word, but, like, they'll keep coming to OCCM once me as a person keep outreaching and keep following up. Like, that's the whole point of service. Like, I'm not just doing this to cross off hours on a thing. Like, it's, I care about you as a person, and I want you to be in heaven with me. So I think if everyone had that mindset of, like, a personable connection with someone else, that's how you're going to get people to come.
So moving on from campus outreach and more into community service, why do you think serving the outside community is so vital to OCCM? Like, where is that connection between that and...
Yeah, I think you can look at it two ways. You can look at it like, when I serve people outside of the community, like, it teaches me something. Like, for example, like, all of these homeless drives that different OCCM chapters will host or put on, like, it teaches you something intrinsically. Like, you're, like, it's not just volunteering at a soup kitchen or whatever. Like, you're buying food, you're cooking it, you're packaging it, you're thinking about the whole process, and then it's not stopping there. Like, you're going out and talking to people, like, and these are real people in the world. Like, I think it's important to get out of that bubble that we're living in. Go talk to real people in real life situations and have compassion for them. Like, these are people who are really struggling. So when I go there and I'm talking to you, not in like, I don't have a superiority complex about it, but I'm talking to you, like, from a place of humility. like I can meet them where they're at and to love them. Like Christ says in the gospel, like I was naked and you clothed me. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. So when we go meet those people, that's how we're being Christ-like. Like, yes, it's important to have this community as Christians together, but serve the outside too. Like we are servants.
I really like the point you made about how, like, it's not just, you don't just go hop on another events or another organization's event and just say like, oh, we served, but about serving from the start to the finish, from the planning to the execution of it. And I think this is obviously something this year in OCCM that we're really pushing, is for people to really make their own events, to make their own services, because where the real service happens is not when the day you're serving, but it's the entire preparation leading up to that service. That's where the real service is. And obviously there's a lot of other things that you learn about, like, you know, planning, coordination, dealing with other people. So there's a lot of life skills you learn as well.
Exactly.
But I think the key is realizing that just like everything else in the church, you start from scratch. You know?
And that's not something that we learn growing up. Like growing up, it's like
everything's handed to us.
Habibi, like you're done with high school, come serve in Sunday school now, and you're just like joined into it, and you're not really like, some of us may be involved in like the back end of it, of the planning and the commitments and all of this, but it's something different entirely when it's completely student-led, completely self-thought, and it's special, and you're proud of it, and it teaches you, and it serves the people who are with you.
And I think there's a very common saying that the service doesn't need you, but you need the service. And there's nothing more true than that statement, because you realize that the more you serve, the more you wish you could serve more.
Yes.
I had Jonathan on the podcast yesterday, and we were talking about service, and he was like, you know, like I got to a point where like I don't want to serve Sunday school, but if I don't serve it, like I feel like I have no purpose. I have to serve it more. So it's like, it's funny because like you feel like all you want to do is complain. Oh, it's so much work. It's all this.
Me with OCCM.
And then you stop and you go, nah, I wish I could have that.
I
back.
love this. Like I can't imagine what's gonna happen when I grow up and I graduate college. Like I love OCCM. OCCM is my thing. Even last year was so hard and so many responsibilities and so many, you know, difficult like interactions and but I can't help myself. Like I need more. I
feel the same way. I think like I do a lot of different things, but if I were to stop anything that I do, I would lose like all sense of like who I was as a person.
Exactly.
And so I think that's another thing, is that when you serve and love God, you want to serve and love him more. I was at the convent a few weeks ago. I was tagging on to a little trip that some of my friends from St. Mark, DC were doing. And Abuna Paul was giving a talk, and he was talking about how like one of the nuns, like basically her story. And he was saying that like this is like, she used to live actually in Florida, and she used to have like a really good job, like a nice house. Like she was living life. Like she wasn't just like whatever. She was like living life. And then she, you know, went to the convent, and she was like, I kind of like this. And then she just started to talk to God more and spend more time with God. And it got to a point where she would like drink coffee at night just to stay up to pray, because like all she wanted was just more of God. And so it got to a point where like she couldn't do both. She couldn't live in the world and want God as much as she and love God as much as she wanted to. So she left the world and went to the convent. Obviously, we can't all be monks, we can't all be nuns, but
it's a calling.
It's the same idea in our lives, that everything we do, we need to do with the same hunger and the same thirst for Christ, and that the more that you do it, the more you will hunger and thirst for Christ.
Absolutely.
So
I love that.
That's all I have for you.
Okay.
But I have one last question.
Okay.
Which is what I ask everyone, and is, what is a legacy that you want to leave? It doesn't have to be OCCM related, it can be, but
a legacy?
Yeah, legacy.
None. I feel like I'm in OCCM because I really felt how OCCM served me. Like I needed it, and it took me in and it served me, and now like it's my only responsibility to give back. And so I don't want anything more. Like I feel like not like I'm repaying a favor, but it took me in, and so I also want to do that for other people. And I just want to leave it at that and hand it off to the next generation. But I'm so thankful for what OCCM has been, and I hope that I'm giving back even a fraction of what it did to me.
Well, thank you, Christy, for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Isaiah. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and see you guys next week. Thank you.